boys and girls. How's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing well. I decided to go back to the school and pick up the book, The Indian in the Cupboard, because we left off sort of 3/4 of the way through the story, and I thought you might want to hear some more. So I'm going to try to read a little bit to you on a regular basis. Now, I know where we left off last was there was a kind of a disastrous situation when the boys brought the two little men to school. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resume sort of where we left off. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit so that in case you've forgotten where we were. But I'm now on page 142. There was still another hour of lessons to be got through. Fortunately, it was 2 periods of art. In the art room, you could go away into a corner and even sit with your back turned to the teacher if you liked. Omni went to the furthest and darkest corner. Omni, don't try to draw there, said the art teacher. You're in your own light. It's bad for your eyes. I'm going to draw something huge anyway, said Omni. All the others sat near the long windows. He was quite alone, and if the teacher approached him, he would hear her feet on the bare floor. He suddenly felt he simply must get a little fun out of this somehow. So he cautiously fished Little Bear and Boone out of his pocket. They stood on the sheet of white drawing paper as if on a stretch of snow and looked about them. "The school place?" asked Little Bear. "Yes, shh. Sure don't look much like the school." Oh no, sorry, this is Boone that's speaking. "Sure don't look much like the school I went to," exclaimed Boone. "Where's the rows of desks? Where's the slate and bit of chalk? Why ain't their teacher talking?" "We're doing art. We can sit where we like. She doesn't talk much. She just lets us get on with it," Omni, in his softest whisper could possibly manage, answered. "Art, eh?" asked Boone, brightening up. "Say, that was my best subject. I was always topping the art. The only thing was I was not very good at it. Still draw a mite when I gets a chance, if n'ain't nobody around to laugh at me." He reached into the pocket of his own tiny little jeans and fished out a stub of pencil, almost too small to see. "Can I draw a mite on your paper?" he asked. Omni nodded. Boone strode to the very center of the paper, looked all around at the white expanse stretching away from him in every direction, and gave a deep sigh of satisfaction. Then he knelt down and began to draw. Little Bear and Omni watched. From the microscopic point of Boone's pencil, there developed a most amazing scene. It was a prairie landscape with hills and cacti and a few tufts of sagebrush. Boone sketched in with sure strokes some little wooden buildings, such as Omni had seen in cowboy films. A saloon with a swinging sign reading "Golden Dollar Saloon" in twirly writing, a post office and general store, a livery stable, and a stone house with a barred window and a sign saying "Jail." Then, moving swiftly on his knees as if it were from one end of his street to another, Boone drew in the foreground figures of men and women, wagons, horses, and dogs, and all the trappings of a little town. From Boone's point of view, he was drawing something quite large, making the best use of his vast piece of paper. But from Omni's, the drawing was minute, perfect in its detailing, but smaller than any human hand could possibly have made it. He and Little Bear watched, fascinated. "Boone, you're an artist," Omni breathed at last, when Boone had even made the mud on the unpaved street look real. Little Bear grunted. Not like real place," he said. Boone didn't trouble to answer. In fact, he was so absorbed he probably didn't even hear. But Omni frowned. Then he understood. Of course, Boone's town was part of an America that was not thought of during Little Bear's time. Boone, he whispered, bending his head down. What year is it, your town? What time? Last time I saw a newspaper, it was 1889, said Boone. There, that's my drawing. Not too bad, huh? It's absolutely brilliant, said Omni, enthralled. Omni! Omni jumped. His two hands instantly cupped themselves over the two men. From the other side of the room, the teacher said, I see it's no use trying to stop you chattering. You even do it when you're alone. Come on, bring me your picture. For a moment, Omni hesitated, but it was too marvelous to pass up. He scooped the little men into his pocket, picked up the sheet of paper, and for once, he wouldn't stop to think. He just enjoyed himself. He carried Boone's drawing to the teacher and put it innocently into her hand. What happened then made up for a good deal of the worry and general upset that the little men had caused him. First, she just glanced. At a glance, the drawing in the middle of the paper just looked like a scribble or a smudge. I thought you said you were going to do something huge, she said with a laugh. This isn't much more than a... And then she took a second, much closer look. She stared without speaking for about 2 minutes, while Omni felt inside him the beginnings of a huge, gleeful, uncontrollable laugh. Abruptly, the teacher, who had been perched on a desk, stood up and went to a cupboard. Omni was not surprised to see a magnifying glass in her hand when she turned around. She put the paper down on the table and bent over it with the glass poised. She examined the drawing for several minutes more. Her face was something to see. Some of the nearest children had become aware that something unusual was going on, and were also craning to see what the teacher was looking at so attentively. Omni stood with the same innocent look on his face and waiting, the laugh slowly rising inside him. Fun? This was fun. If you liked, this was what he'd been imagining. The teacher looked at him. Her face was not quite as stunned as Mr. Johnson's had been, but it was an absolute picture of bafflement. Omni, she said, how in the name of all that's holy did you do this? I like drawing small, said Omni quite truthfully. Small? This isn't small. It's tiny. It's microscopic. Her voice was rising higher with every word. Several of the other children had now stood up and were crowding around the paper, peering at it in absolute stupefaction. Small gasps and exclamations of wonder were rising on all sides. Omni, held in laugh, threatened to explode. The teacher's eyes were now narrow with astonishment and doubt. Show me, she said. The pencil you used. This took Omni aback for only a second. I left it over there. I'll go and get it, he said. He walked back to his table, his hand in his pocket. With his back turned, he bent over, apparently searching the top of the table. Then he turned around, smiling, holding something cupped in his hand, and he walked back. Here it is, he said, and held out his hand. Everyone bent forward. The art teacher took hold of his hand and pulled it toward her. Are you putting me on, Omni? There's nothing there. Yes, there is. She peered close until he could feel her warm breath on his hand. Don't breathe hard, said Omni. His laugh was now trembling on his lips. You'll blow it away. Maybe you'd see it better through the magnifying glass, he said kindly. Slowly she raised the glass into position and looked through it. Can I see? Is it there? Can I look? Clamored the children, all except for Patrick. He was sitting by himself, not paying attention to the crowd around Omni. The art teacher lowered her glass. Her eyes were dazed. I don't believe it. It's there. How did you pick it up? Ah, well, it's a bit of a secret method I have. Oh, yes, she said, it must be. And you wouldn't feel like telling us? No, said Omni in a trembling voice. His laugh was on the verge. It was going to burst out. May I be excused? Yes, she said in a dazed voice. Go on. He took the drawing back and tottered to the door. He managed to get outside before the laugh actually blew out. But it was so loud, so overpowering that he was obliged to go right out into the playground. There he sank onto a bench and laughed till he felt quite weak. Her face! He had never enjoyed anything so much in his whole life. It had been worth it. The bell rang and school was over. Omni brought out the men and held them up. Guys, he said, I enjoyed that. Thank you. Now you're going to the shop. Omni ran all the way to Yap's and got there before most of the other children had even got out of the school. And in 10 minutes, the place would be full of kids buying potato chips and sweets and toys and comics. Just now, he had it to himself, and he had to make the most of the few minutes that he had. I think I'm going to leave it at that. So obviously, he had a good time sort of tricking the teacher and the other children. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will resume with reading maybe tomorrow, and we'll continue until we're finished with the book. And as I said, we've got probably about 1/5 of the book left to read. So I hope you enjoyed it, and miss you, and hope you're working hard and helping your family out and keeping busy. See you tomorrow.